Alright, so I didn't expect that first video to get nearly as many views as it did. I didn't, I never expect videos to get views on any channel that I post, which is multiple, by the way. If you like Airsoft, go check out my Airsoft channel. If you like gameplay, go check out my video game channel down in the description below. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't expect that first video to get very many views. So here we are with a follow up. I've been trying to respond to as many comments as I can that I feel are worth responding to that aren't just vitriolic, and I've deleted a couple comments. I do moderate my own comments. I don't feel the need to tolerate senseless negative comments that aren't constructive or critiquing in a way that is building upon the conversation. I've had to delete a couple comments that were just flat out rude for no reason, which is just people spitting venom for just to be stupid, just to be argumentative, or to try to trigger some kind of like rage baiting argument. And I did have to delete a couple comments about one thing, which I'll get to real quick. But first, before this video starts, I do want to say go check out my website, vengeancebooks.com. Down in the description below, I write books and they are cool. So go check that out. Anyway, so the first thing I wanted to address was comments regarding the cleanliness of my bedroom. All right. I don't know why that was a contentious topic in the comments. I think a couple people commented. I replied to one of them, and he just kept going. And I'm just like, okay, remove this comment chain. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about my bedroom because, yeah, my room was a little bit messy, but that's because just before sitting down to record that, I was working on like 4 projects. I was hot gluing stuff. I was working. I had this table right here, which right now has like tax documents on it because of whatever stuff. And like at that table, I had a box right here. I think the corner of this desk, my desk right here, looked like it was something else, but it was just the corner of my desk. My bed had my backpack and stuff on it because I was packing stuff. I was unpacking stuff from a from a hike that I just went on. And I just had a bunch of stuff, and it's just like, yeah, my room is small, and it's also my office. I don't have a lot of space in here. I like there's no space behind me. So like if I have 2 or 3 things on the floor behind me, I look like an absolute pig apparently, but it's like, dog, you would not be able to handle walking into an Asmongold live stream. Jesus Christ. Anyway, for anyone sitting there commenting about the cleanliness of my room, go wipe your ass. Now, before I actually get into the topics I have on my phone, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who did leave a comment that wasn't purely negative, and it was actually an open dialogue expressing your own feelings, your own valid feelings and concern. And thank you to those who validated my own feelings in everything I was talking about, and for actually taking what I said as anything more than just some idiot speaking nonsense, because like anyone with a phone, anyone with a microphone, anyone with a webcam can go and make a video like this about any topic and just like regurgitate stuff that they hear and just drive a narrative that they're clinging on to. It's the same thing we have with politics nowadays. It's the same thing with anything. Just somebody can just walk in there and be like, yeah, this one thing, and just like repeat what they heard without any evidence or without anything strong backing it up, and then that just like snowballs the whole thing. So to the people who are down in the comments actually expressing their own concerns and validating mine and having a conversation, thank you for being amicable. The first thing I wanted to get into, and again, this is not in any order, it's just like a big vomit. It's like just like a vomit of notes that I wrote while I was at work. The first thing I wanted to mention was the concept of separating the art from the artist. Now, obviously, there are limits of what you can do. There's artists like Marilyn Manson. There's, even some stuff that like Korn would sing about that you might unnecessarily agree with or have themes that are like sensitive or anything like that. Whatever. Like I do believe you can separate art from the artist to a degree. Obviously, there are some really harsh concepts like, oh, if this artist, I think, if this artist raped somebody directly, if they're the one that raped somebody, or this person murdered somebody in cold blood, or beat the shit out of their girlfriend or boyfriend, or starved their dog and skinned them or something like yeah, you can separate. You don't have to separate the art from the artist. You can drop them completely. But just because they're involved in things you disagree with doesn't, you're allowed to drop them for that. But you also have to accept that some people aren't going to drop them for that because they don't view it as negatively as you do. I personally can typically look past a lot of things when it comes to music because all I'm trying to get from the music is the songs themselves, not necessarily the artist. If there's a lot of bands I listen to that I don't even know a single name of a single band member. I just listen to it because I like the music and it resonates with me in a way, or it reminds me of something, or whatever have you. And I don't know a single damn thing about 90% of the artists I listen to. I could only name maybe 10 vocalists that I listen to. It's just a lot of it doesn't matter to me, and but for the ones that I do know, I can look past things that I find typically or generally uncomfortable because I'm not trying to ruin my own enjoyment of the music. And because it's not something so vile that I would feel the need to actually have a reaction to that and drop them. But even if I don't fully support every member of the band, I can still support the music. I can still support music that makes me feel seen and heard as an individual. I can still support music that makes me feel some type of way, whether that's good or emotional or anything like that. I can still support the music even if I don't support the artist, with an asterisk. It all depends on what they did and who they are, obviously. Now, especially in this situation with Emily, and again, I'm recording this on September 13th. Nobody has all the information, but from what we know right now, is that her ties to Scientology are from being born as second generation Scientologist. So she was born into it, and that in and of itself is a complicated. You're born into any type of narrative or any type of belief. Trying to get out of that or seeing a different view from that is inordinately challenging. Just like if you were born Mormon or heavily Christian, or if you were born Muslim or something, and then just like people are trying to convince you otherwise of these things, and whether those things are good or bad or like morally subjective, it's trying to like change the chemistry of your brain to work around that, even if you want to, is still an insurmountable challenge as it is. And then, not to mention having the pressure from those still within the belief pressuring you to stay and to be like, whatever have you, trying to like hold on tight to you, trying to escape that. And as somebody that got out of a moderately religious household, and is even worse now, like, a lot of my family has turned to religion and has turned to heavily right wing politics, and trying to like manage that. And like, like I'll admit straight out, when I was younger, I was born in like a pretty racist household. I was born xenophobic and racist and homophobic and all these things. I was taught those things. That's what I was brought up in. And then it didn't take much for me to get outside of that perspective and like grow into like, oh shit, that's just a person. Crazy concept, but like I came out of it. I grew out of it. I still have like deep-seated roots of like misogyny and stuff that's in me, but it's like not stuff that I believe in, but it's like, gut reactions, because that's what I was born into. And that's just like pretty tame normal American things. So imagine something like Scientology, where they're like literally will destroy your life for trying to get out of it. And I can't speak a whole lot on Scientology. Remember, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I'm not Mr. Ultimately well informed. I'm not Mr. Here are my sources that I'm citing. This is just like from the very narrow perspective that I have on these topics, and very little experience I have with them, but just looking at it as an outsider, as somebody who has heard a lot of different viewpoints through TikTok and through YouTube. These are the conclusions I'm drawing currently with the information we have. That doesn't mean that I won't I won't put my own foot in my mouth. I won't go back on what I say with new information coming out. But as it stands right now, I can forgive the Scientology stuff because it doesn't seem to be as entrenched in it as other people would have. Because, well, that's a topic I'm going to get into a little bit later on. But like, as far as she goes, like as far as we're all aware, she's openly gay, which is not something that Scientology tolerates. At least until recently, as far as I know, they've started to accept homosexuality to a degree in there, but they don't make your life easy if you are. That's just more of like a PR thing, as a way to make you feel like, oh yeah, no, we care about you if you're gay, but it's more of just like a manipulation to keep you locked in, to make you feel like, oh, you're still welcome. They're like, oh, this is okay with them, so I don't have any reason to separate myself from it or whatever have you. It's just like a whole manipulation, get your fingers in your brain, keep you around kind of thing. And like I said, if you try to leave or talk against it or disparage it or shed some light on it or whatever have you, to Scientology, they're known for dismantling your entire life, your family, your friends, your career, your social standing. They're known to just like have ends to make your life a living hell. So it's hard for her, especially. I can imagine, she hasn't been able to fully address it. I mean, think about it. She can't fully address her ties to Scientology outside of what's already publicly known, because if she denounces it and goes against it, the Scientologist community will actively seek to destroy her. If she doesn't denounce it, then the outside world and like the Linkin Park fan base are going to destroy her. She's stuck between a rock and a hard place of denounce the thing that I'm very loosely associated with and have them destroy my life, or don't denounce it and make it seem like I'm guiltily a part of it and then have these people destroy it. So like realistically, what can she do? It's something that has to be approached with precision, a lot of thought put behind it. That's the thing. I'm trying to give her and the band and Mike and everyone the benefit of the doubt, because innocent until proven guilty. You know, it's fundamental. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and have like, the torch and pitchforks mob mentality of just like burn this person down, blah blah blah. They're different, kill them. Like I don't know. I don't think also that like the majority of Scientologists go around abusing child like slave labor and like doing all this other crazy I'm pretty sure I find it's a pretty safe bet to say that the majority of them are just like in it for the community and the beliefs and being born into it and aren't actively engaging in it's like yeah every single Catholic goes around molesting children. No, that's just the bigger ones. That's just like the people who wear robes. You know what I mean? It's I'm being a little bit sardonic with it, but it's still like that's my general take. Is like just because it's that thing doesn't mean that they are 100% in an embodiment of that thing. Just because you're, I keep using Christian as an example because that's one of the bigger religions in America. Just because you're Christian doesn't mean you're like a devout acolyte serving the will of God amongst everybody, whether or not they're willing. It's like no, some people are just like I believe in this particular higher power and these morals align with me or this community understands me. And same thing with Scientology, whatever. I'm beating a dead horse, but like so quick to judge these things without again having all the information. You don't have 40% of the information. You just have what some other person said, what some other news article said, and everybody else is just compounding that, mimicking that, echoing that, and then just snowball and snowball and snowball. And again, I will eat my words if it all turns out to be wrong. If she turns out to be the most giant piece of shit in the world, fuck her to hell and back. I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and defend her with my I'm not her shield, I'm just approaching it as a human being with an ounce of compassion and a willingness to listen. Now, the Danny Masterson thing also has basically been cleared up as far as, we've gotten the post directly from her. A lot of people keep saying she's a rape apologist, she's friends with a rapist, and people have saying stuff like that in my comments, but it's like, you didn't do a single ounce of research because it came up pretty quickly in an Instagram post or a post from her somewhere that she addressed that whole situation. She showed up to an early trial as a friend, as a supporter, because she was his friend. And like if some people convinced your friend of being a bad person, innocent until proven guilty, you'd want to go and try to defend them because you're like, no, not my friend, not Jim. He wouldn't do anything like that. I'm going to go defend him. And then like guilty, and you go, oh no. Not my friend anymore. Turns out here's all the evidence. You know what I mean? It's like, of course, you would go and show up to. There's a gnat flying right there. I want to punch him in his little face. I'm going to get him. Like, of course, she'd be like, oh, my friend Danny, he's whatever. He's in this situation. I don't believe it's true. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's go to his early trial. Yikes. Oh no. Proven guilty for all these things. Well, time to wash my hands clean of that. That's pretty much how that goes, and that's basically what she's saying. As soon as she found out these things, and as soon as it came out to be true, and he was found guilty, she walked away. And again, the whole thing about like, she didn't delete him from her Instagram. She barely uses Instagram. And plus, how many times do you just go through your Instagram follow list and go, oh, this person turned out to be bad, unfollow? Most people don't have the time of the day to do that. She's touring with her own band. She's making music. She has her own life instead of sitting on Instagram like you troglodytes, just constantly refreshing feeds for whatever. It's like, guys, give me a fucking break. And plus, again, like I think I said before, who cares if she followed a bad person? A lot of people follow bad people that they don't agree with just to see what they're doing. You know what I mean? I've already mentioned that before. That's just whatever. People just keep reiterating that whole same tired point. It's like she already addressed it, and maybe you weren't satisfied with it, and that's fine. You don't have to be, but she did address it, and we have to at least try to take her word for it. I don't believe that Mike of all people, would allow somebody who defends Danny Masterson to be a part of the band. I'm pretty sure that the Scientology thing, maybe whatever, he could have been like, oh, I don't agree with it, but like, you're one of the good ones kind of thing. Yeah, I could see him being like that, but I don't see him, for someone that worked alongside Chester for as long as he did, to be like, oh yeah, you're a rape apologist? Yeah, come on, be with me. Like, no. I'm pretty sure that part definitely would have been vetted out. Yeah, so like I said before, people keep asking for her to respond, make a response. But like, this is one thing that, yes, I am referencing my notes. He's reading off a script. It's not a script. It's a guideline to make sure I can hit my talking points I want to mention. One thing that something people need to be, it's like, you need to be careful of exactly every single word will be picked apart. Treat her like right now like a politician. Every single thing she says is going to be picked apart, used against her, and just is gonna be searching for contradictions. Is gonna be, it's an absolute nightmare to do something like that. You try making a post that's like declaring your innocence to hundreds of thousands to millions of people waiting to judge it. You know what I mean? It's like standing in the middle of a stadium with all these people ready to throw tomatoes at you based on what you say. Like, every single word has to be carefully considered. It needs to be crafted in such a way to perfectly express her intent and her truth, and in a way that can be received intelligently and not misconstrued. So, not to mention, it's not like something she should or could just whip up in a TikTok or just whip up in an Instagram story. Like, it needs to be well thought out and perfectly executed to make people understand the actuality of it. And again, she can't just go around and be like, oh, this is my denouncing Scientology, because then Scientology will come after her. She can't, whatever. So everything she says, it's complicated, you know. Not to mention, right now they're doing a bunch of shows. They're traveling. They're practicing. She's reading all of this shit going on. She's thinking how she can do better and how she can remain in the positive light. She is carrying such a burden on her shoulders right now. You know what I mean? And so when would she have time to go through and try to craft this response and approach it the way that she should, and that is honestly owed to everybody? When is she gonna have time? She can't even think about that right now. They're doing all these shows, and they're only doing what, 4 shows, something like that. But still, you've never done a show. You don't know what it's like to prepare for that. I did a show once, twice, and they were both very, very tiny, and there's a lot of stress behind it. Which is another thing. Like, people just like, this is every time. It was a compilation of every time her voice cracked. It's like, well, she does intentional voice cracks to transit to a she does plenty of voice cracks to like move up the octave or move down an octave when she's singing. A lot of people do that. I do that. I've cracked my voice to like bounce into the next octave or the next pitch that I'm going into. We any singer will do that a little bit, and some people like it, some people don't. Sometimes there is unintentional voice cracks, and that's because she's singing hard as fuck songs, dude. Like, Chester didn't nail the given up full 17-second scream every time. He only did it a handful of times. He had to take breaths. And they're honestly playing some pretty tough songs, like Paper Cut, One Step Closer, Waiting for the End, fucking Giving Up. Like, they're playing a lot of difficult songs that require so much of you. As somebody that does vocal covers on this channel, fuck, that's a lot. If I was to go sing shows, I could only do a couple songs before my voice gave out, man. I don't know how people do. I do not have the lung capacity. And yeah, she is a vocalist. That's what she does. But like, she's also doing something that's a little bit out of her element. She's going into these very. I'm not gonna just whatever. It's just like it's tough, and she has a lot going on, so she can't really focus on making a perfectly crafted response right now to clear her name. She has to do what she's doing, keep her head down, get through these shows, stay on task to hopefully redeem herself a little bit next time she goes up on stage, at least in the eyes of the fans. And again, I want to reiterate, I don't think any of us should be attacking her and going after her because she isn't Chester. They could have, I mentioned it before in the previous video, they could have gotten any Chester look-alike, any Chester sound-alike, anybody who can try to bring that same energy, and then that person would have gotten torn apart because, again, imagine if they just grabbed some dude with a shaved head, with his flame tattoos, who sounded just like him, and brought him up on stage and sang their classic songs. Part of you would be like, these sound like I remember, but also part of you would be like, what the fuck? They're just literally propping up this, look, everybody, it's Chester. It's like a Cartoon Network plot. Like, look, dad's here. Like, my dad's on vacation, but now we have Robo Dad. He's here to replace my dad. It's like, you can't. You guys would rip that apart. Don't fucking lie. You'd be so full of shit if you say that you would just accept that. Because that, personally, in my humble little opinion, would be such a steaming shit on Chester's legacy to bring somebody in who sounds, that maybe doesn't look like him, but who sounds just like him. That would feel like a replacement. That would absolutely not feel like an evolution. That would feel like a backpedal, and that would feel like a that it's like two kids in a trench coat. Like, maybe nobody will notice, and we can play these shows, and people will be like, oh, just like old times. But like, it's not Linkin Park. That feels way more disingenuous than getting a new singer with a new voice and a new direction. And don't get me wrong, Linkin Park died with Chester. It really did. Like, in my head, it's all that stuff. That's its own book. This is a new book. It's not a new chapter. It's a new book. But it's a new book in the series. And I have a point on that with that same analogy later. But I just like, ugh. Also, we have to keep in mind too that people are crediting, Jamie Bennington, Chester's son, for like these things of him bashing Mike and being like, "You blocked me and you've done all this," but it's like, dog, he has apparently, I don't know all the information again. Like, this is stuff that I've heard. So take everything I say is not 100% fact, but from what I've heard and what I have seen from his own videos, that like Mike and some of the band have a restraining order against him, and they have blocked him because he harasses them and he like goes on these inane ramblings, and he's just like kind of unhinged as far as I know. Like, he still talks about his dad like he's alive. He was convinced for a time that Chester was still alive, and like, maybe he is. Maybe there's a conspiracy going on with that, and he really is still alive or something. But like, going around saying stuff like that, and then also like referring to his dad as Chester and not dad. It's just a weird disconnect right there. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't take everything that he says as gospel either, because he seems to be a little bit weird, you know? Until we get like a response from Mike addressing things that he has said, which I don't know if we will. I can't lend a lot of credence to what he says, because a lot of it just seems unfounded and sourceless. I don't know, man. A lot of the fan base, man, is just spewing the same hateful rhetoric that they did to Linkin Park even when Chester was still alive. A lot of people were shouting the same nonsense that they did for every single album after Minutes to Midnight. And even Minutes to Midnight got a lot of hate. That was like the beginning of their sellout era and like the Transformers soundtrack and stuff. But like, I'll admit, dude, I was part of the bandwagon too. I wasn't like outspokenly hating them. I just kind of like dropped a couple of the albums. I just didn't. I also had my music taste was evolving when like Thousand Suns and all that stuff and Hunting Party, when those were coming out. My music taste was evolving. I was discovering new artists. I wasn't listening to the same middle school bands that I grew up with. I was out of Avenged Sevenfold, All That Remains, Disturbed, Linkin Park, Breaking Benjamin. Like, I had shifted from that and was discovering new music, like of Mice and Men and whatever have you. Just so, and Mice and Men wasn't new music, but like to me it was new. Like, I just discovered fucking Secrets, and I just discovered Non-Point, like bands I just never heard of, never listened to, whatever. I'm always discovering new music. Sorry. I just ate food and drinking Sprite, so all this talking is bubbling me. But yeah, so like Linkin Park fans are doing the same thing now that they did then. Like, this isn't Linkin Park. Linkin Park's changed. They're not the same. They're selling out. Like, every fucking album after Minutes to Minute, anything that wasn't Meteor or Hybrid Theory was deemed like trash. It's like, oh, it's only got one good song on it or whatever. Why isn't Chester screaming every single song? It's like, music evolves, dude. They're not a one genre band. Like, using Korn as an example, they had a dubstep album, dude, and that was like one of the sickest fucking albums of the year of Korn's discography. Path of Totality is one of my favorite Korn albums because it's fucking rad, dude. Like, to take a new metal band like that, or like a melodic metal band that Korn has like dabbled into, and do dubstep with Skrillex, dude, with Skill Ricks, come on. Like, in Linkin Park, bands have to evolve. Otherwise, they stagnate and people get bored and they leave. You know what I mean? So, and like, this is just another evolution of the band. And you guys just so many people just shit on them for those decisions. Like when Heavy came out, dude. Heavy, everyone's like, oh, look at it, listen to this pop soft sissy garbage. Like, dude, you guys are contributed. I'm pretty safe in saying that kind of garbage is what is a big factor of what contributed to Chester leaving the way that he did. To be pouring your soul, like those are some of the most emotional souls. Like One More Light is one of the most emotional albums ever, and is such it's such an autopsy of his like most exposed nerves, dude. Of that album is just, and everybody shit on it. I didn't even listen to it. I didn't even know it came out, honestly, at the time. But like, and you guys are doing the same thing, and you're just attacking a girl who, to the fan base, has done nothing wrong. She did nothing to the fan base. She's stepping into this role. She's stepping into such an, goddamn, dude. I pity her. I pity her so bad. And you guys are doing the same thing. You're throwing rocks and you're spitting in their face and you're spitting in the whole man's face. And it's shameful. It's honestly shameful and depressing to watch happen again in real time. If she comes out to be a shitty person and it's actually true and valid and verifiable and everything like that, then sure, fuck her. But right now, you guys are just going up to a stranger and basically telling her to die. It's crazy. And you're dragging the rest of the band down with it. No matter what she decides to say, no matter what reason, no matter what story she tells, regardless, it's gonna be twisted against her. She's gonna have words put in her mouth. She's gonna everything's gonna be taken out of context. Everything's gonna be turned into a malicious, saving face, whatever kind of vomit, dude. It's just vomit. And like I said before, I want to touch again on the idea that there is no Linkin Park without Chester. And as sad as it makes me to say, I do feel like I am leaning more towards that ideology. Chester was the face, he was the soul, he was the voice, he was our link, he was us. Chester was us on stage. He was our voice, you know. He was transcribing our silent pleas for help in his music. And I don't think, Linkin Park was there before Chester, but Chester stepped into that role and he made Linkin Park what it was. And there's no denying that. Like, obviously, everyone else in the band, it's a band, everyone plays their part, but Chester is the one who was standing at the top of the podium. He was there at the apex, at the precipice, and we saw him. And in him, we saw ourselves. So yes, Chester is Linkin Park, to me. And you're allowed to disagree with that. You are 100% allowed, and I'm not arguing that, to me, the way I see it. But I see current Linkin Park with Emily as not necessarily Linkin Park. I see it as Linkin Park adjacent. Or some people have said Linkin Park 2. You know, they're parallel to the original thing. It's a sequel. But it's a sequel that nobody really asked for. And even those who did were interested to see where it went when they started putting out singles. It's that kind of thing, like where you look at a sequel, any sequel that doesn't live up to the hype of the first one, you're just like, you start comparing it, you know, endlessly. You compare it endlessly, and you're always going to find something wrong with it. And you just like, it's a continuation. It's, for some reason, here we are again. We have another one, and we don't even know if we wanted it. Nobody really knows what they wanted. And yes, it fails. The concept of a Linkin Park 2 fails more than it succeeds. But where it's succeeding, you know, that first single, and the energy and the happiness to see Mike smile again and stuff, to see the band playing music, even if it's not all the band members, just to see that chemistry come to life on stage again, and to hear some of those songs, I don't know. I'm happy for it. I want to see where it goes. And I'm hopeful for it. And I'm not hopeful for a lot of things. Anyone that knows me knows I'm not hopeful for much. I'm not an optimistic person. I'm quite the opposite. I'm very pessimistic. But I'm hopeful for this album. Because this single that they put out, has really does feel like Linkin Park. It has felt like the most Linkin Park I've heard in a while. You know, obviously it's not that emotional explosion that we got in the earliest albums, but it does feel like at the core, this feels like it feels like Linkin Park. It feels like 2013 Linkin Park. I don't know, man. And be real. Look right now. Look at me. Look at me. Be honest. If Emily came out with a whole, like a live stream or a long video or some huge post, just clearing the air, addressing everything, assuaging everybody's worries and doubts, denouncing everything that everyone's against with the Scientology and the Danny Masterson thing, and everything else that people are trying to pick apart. And if she comes out and addresses everything perfect to a T, to where everyone, by all rights, should be satisfied, would you be? Would you? Can you sit here and tell me that you would be like, yes, she said these things, and I am all aboard? For one reason or another, no, I don't believe you would, because everybody just gets stuck. Everyone just gets stuck like glue to these ideas and to hatred, you know. And you're just gonna hold on to that, despite what you hear. That's you going like, nah, 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 I can't hear you. It's like I'm trying. I'm not gonna try to bring politics into it, but like, you know, the presidential debate was very fresh. And I'm not a huge political guy. I'm just invested in making. I'm invested right now because I don't want red hats to be a prominent figure anymore. And if that upsets you, feel free to leave. We don't support red hats here. But watching the debate and watching the aftermath of the debate feels kind of like what I would expect this to be like, where no matter what the outcome of that was, despite the fact that Trump got absolutely embarrassed, devastated, and curb stomped, everybody has their own conspiracies as to why it didn't go his way. Oh, she had speakers, she had Bluetooth in her earrings being fed answers. It was a 3v1. He, blah, blah, all these just excuses and reasons. Like everybody's, no matter, sorry about that. No matter, in the same way of the situation, no matter what she says, no matter what happens, people are still going to find reasons to not believe it or to just perpetuate their own hate. And that's depressing, because that right there goes against everything Chester stood for. Whether or not he would have supported Emily and her Scientology beliefs or her as a person, you can't deny that how the fans are acting, is not what Chester stood for at all. Hell, what was his last show? I think his last show, or one of his last shows, he got up on stage. I'll put in the clip right here.
Real quick, before we get into this next song, and I come down there and sing with all my friends, I just want to make sure before we leave and go back home that we pay our respect and share some of our love and our prayers for the families of the victims of the tragedy at the Manchester Arena. My heart has never been broken so much than the day that I found out that tragedy happened. And since that day, I've been wearing these little earrings with the bees in them. I know that's a symbol of the strength and hope of the city of Manchester. And I'm gonna keep these in. I'm gonna keep these in until all this nonsense stops and we can start loving each other. We can stop hurting each other because we believe in something different than the person standing next to us. The one thing that can't be defeated is love, right? You can conquer hate by ignoring it. You can destroy it by loving the person next to you. So I want everybody here tonight to look at the person standing next to you and just tell them that you love them and you are happy that they're here with you tonight, having a good time, listening to music, celebrating life. We don't care what you look like. We don't care where you come from. We don't care what you believe in. We love every single one of you out there. And nothing will ever change that. With that said, let's sing some songs together.
I feel confident in saying he would not want the fans to be acting like this, regardless of her history and regardless of the band's decisions. That goes against everything he stood for. And that's most of my notes I've gone through. I recorded this for a lot longer than the other one. I am going to edit this one down a little bit, but obviously there's more to address. And just a closing statement that, again, if it comes out to where she's absolute shit, then I'll eat my words and be like, okay, if we have the proof that she's actually a genuinely bad person who deserves the hate, then she deserves the hate. But right now, she doesn't deserve what she's getting, and people need to have a little bit of patience and need to stop just repeating everything that they hear in a random TikTok video. Because I'm seeing the same TikToks over and over and over. And I see the same comments in every single TikTok. Dude, just such bot behavior. Everybody just like, oh, this person said something that's creative and that summarizes my feelings. So I'm going to copy paste. Every comment in every TikTok is a copy paste. And it's exhausting. It is so exhausting. I am a hateful, spiteful, petty person. But this is so much hate, you guys. I mean, come on. Get a grip. Wait for things to come out. Keep your mouth shut until you actually have information from credible sources. TikTok and this YouTube video are not credible sources for anything. This is just my opinion and my observation. Keep that in mind. So don't be arguing in the comments. Like, if you make it down to the comments, you're still saying some of the bullshit that I talked about in this, and as if you didn't just hear me say it, I'm removing stupid comments because I'm not dealing with that shit. Just take it easy, okay? Just relax. Relax until we get more information, until they talk about it. Thank you guys again for watching. If you've made it to the end, leave a like, subscribe for vocal covers from me, and check out my book series at vengeancebooks.com. I'll see you guys in the next one.